So for this next video, I am being asked to share for my next Chronicles by Confessions, my sort of coming out, so to speak, to my biological mother and father about who I am in this lifetime, in a way, in certain ways, and in certain ways not. But yeah, let me just get into the story, and you can make up your own minds. How about that? How do you like them apples? So basically, the story begins in Sydney, Australia. I was a toddler, and I'm piecing together things still from things my mother has told me, though my memory has not quite served me appropriately in this. Yeah, there's a lot of things that are hazy and hard for me to access about that time period in my life. But I mean, just from childhood here and there, for many reasons. And yes, most of them related to trauma, childhood trauma, deep. And so that is in part why I'm also being asked to drop my masks and share with whomever watches, because I'm being shown that it may be helpful. So let's move forward, shall we? Yeah. And thank you for listening, whoever's listening. Okay, so I was a toddler, about 1 or 2, between 1 and 2, somewhere around there. And as my mother has told me, I was standing in my crib during this particular incident, during which my biological father, who, God rest his soul, struggled with alcoholism and is no longer with us. He's on the other side. And I didn't find out until 2014, when I contacted that whole side of the family, started making contact with them through Facebook. I started finding them, my paternal side of the family. And that's when I was informed that he was, that he had passed on the year before. Bear with me, as this is not going to be easy at times for me to drop certain masks I'm being asked to drop. Okay, so anyhow, he was drunk during this particular incident, and he apparently, he and my mother were arguing or fighting, and he apparently pulled a knife on her. At which point, my mother says, I yelled out from the crib, and this is the point at which my mother had told me for years, she's mentioned it a couple times, that my biological father threw the knife at me at that point, in my direction, and it came toward my head, and apparently, according to her, he threw it so hard that it stuck into the wall behind me. That's quite a throw. But apparently, here's the kicker. You ready for this? Because in subsequent years, in my adulthood, and throughout the various awakenings I have experienced, whether they be subtle or monumental awakenings. Either way, in the process during this path that I've been walking, I reconnected with the memory that it was not my father, in fact, who threw the knife, but rather I myself who, and yes, okay, we're going to talk about psychokinetic abilities. Okay, some people call them telekinetic abilities. I've been researching and looking into a lot of the bodies of work of, for example, Dr. Charles Tart, who calls it psychokinesis. And that was actually his work. Charlie Tart's, Dr. Tart's work. I haven't actually met him. I don't know why I call him Charlie, because my head teacher at the monastery I was living at last year is the one who suggested that I look into Mr. Tart's work, and was connected to him, was one of his teachers. And when my head teacher at the monastery attended college. And so, anyhow, in Mr. Charles Tart's work, which delves into altered states of consciousness, as well as, I mean, if you're not familiar with his work, check out The End of Materialism. That, just, okay? Seriously. But anyway, I digress. Going back to psychokinetic abilities and discovering at 1.5, whatever, that you have them. And I pulled the knife out of it. When he pulled the knife on my mother during the argument, I pulled it out of his hand, and I'm the one who drew it toward me to the back of my, the wall behind me. Now, since having this recollection, I have not had the opportunity to tell my mother of this, or my father, in fact, because my father, well, because he's passed away on the other side at this point, and my mother and I have not spoken since Christmas Day of 2017. So, and that's, if you don't know, I have, again, tagged it with hashtag Chronicles by Confessions on my Facebook stuff. And I'll be doing more of it here as I am called and asked to do so. But that's this one. And I'm just glad I got it out, because, again, it's not easy. And I thank you for listening, and I wonder if any of you see yourselves in this, because, oh, here's the thing. See, it created a bunch of subsequent things in the dynamics between as you can only imagine, in the dynamics between myself, my biological father, myself, my biological mother, the two of them, the three of us. There were many things that spun out of that event, including the fact that my mother, I believe, has since been afraid of me. But if she knew me, she'd know that part of my mission is and hinges on my understanding the importance of being connected to the heart with a capital H, which I do. And I have, my gosh, I continually take great painstaking efforts. And I say painstaking, but some of them are painstaking, sure. Yes, it takes a sacrifice. Okay, if it were easy, everyone would be awakening left and right. Okay, but that's not the case. And it is what it is. And more people are awakening, and more will continue to awaken. But as of right now, and you know what I'm talking about. You look around, you see, not everyone is, and it is, and that's fine. You know, everyone is on their own path, and it'll take however long it takes them. But as for me, these are the things that I'm being asked at this point to share with you, and I hope you've enjoyed it. My quote-unquote coming out, although I haven't quite come out because, well, I'm coming out here now to all of you, and to maybe my I don't know, maybe my mother will see this someday, and maybe some things will click for her too, hopefully. And I send her much, 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 much love and peace and light from my heart, as I do to everyone, to all of you, always. Thank you.